this second part in the three-part series where I talk about the techniques that I've used for lucid dreaming and out-of-body experiences. And in this video I'm just going to talk about the technique or the method that I used for my very first self-induced out-of-body experience. I told you in the last video that I'd already experienced an out-of-body, but that was within a lucid dream. But this method gave me my first self-induced out-of-body from reality. I'll start by saying this method is not my method. It's one I learned. I read it in a book, an e-book, by a guy called Michael Raduga. And he spent a lot of time researching and practicing these techniques. He's developed a whole philosophy around them, a whole series of practices. He's written a number of books on the subject. He has his own school in America, and he's got practitioners all around the world who follow his techniques. I'm going to give a link below, and I advise you to click on that link, go to his site, download his free ebook called The Phase, and read the first part of it, because that will tell you exactly what I'm going to tell you now, but in even more detail. And if you follow his instructions, you are going to have a really good chance of having your first out-of-body experience within 3 days. Because that's happened to me, and that happened to my brother. And really, I can't recommend any other technique better than this from personal experience. So Michael Raduga calls it the phase. Every phenomena to do with being out of the physical awakened awareness state, he calls the phase. That includes lucid dreams, and that includes out-of-body experiences, and that includes astral travel, but it also includes synchronicities, near-death experiences, and many other spiritual and psychic phenomena. It's all out of body, actually. It's all a phase state which is different from the awakened physical state that we know as our reality. So I discovered this book together with my brother while he was visiting at the beginning of this year. We read it, the first part of it, together, and we decided that we would practice this together. I've already told you this in another video. The simplest technique, the beginner's technique that he talks about, is called the indirect method. And I'm going to run through this briefly. So this indirect method employs the state you're in on awakening from sleep. According to Michael Raduga, you are already in a phase state when you wake up. You're not completely transferred to physical reality. You're still in a sort of dream-like state. And if you catch this perfectly at the moment of awakening, you can actually step out of your body. And the whole purpose of this method, learning this method, is to create a habit, an understanding first, but also a habit of particular techniques and applications on that moment of awakening. So you don't have to really think about it, but you just act, and you can have your out-of-body experience. You can separate from your physical body. You can move out or teleport to somewhere else immediately. The sleeping state because you're already in it, it is very important, especially for beginning practitioners. And that's why this particular method has so much success. So in a nutshell, this is what this whole method involves. You go to bed at night and you sleep for about 5 or 6 hours. Your whole intention is just to have a good, solid night's sleep. No thoughts about OBEs or anything. You wake up with an alarm. You get out of bed, you spend between 5 minutes and a half hour just being awake. You can refresh your face, you can drink some water, you can go to the toilet, and then you go back to bed. This time, before you sleep, you have the intention that on the next awakening and every subsequent awakening, you will attempt to project from your body, to separate from your physical body. And then you go back to sleep. When you wake up, you must remember to stay perfectly still and keep your eyes closed. And immediately just try to step out of bed, not with your physical body, but with your perceived body, your subtle body, your imagined body. And it should feel exactly like stepping out with your physical body. But because you've practiced certain techniques before the attempt, you'll know the difference. So you just step out of your physical body, out of your bed, and you are in the phase. If that doesn't work, and you should know whether it works between 3 and 5 seconds, but that's not working, then you spend a minute cycling through various chosen techniques, usually movement techniques, but they could also be visual and auditory techniques, to actually get a feeling for your subtle body separating from your physical body. And when those sensations or that feeling becomes strong, then you can actually make that separation. Once you're separated, in the first instance, you have a task to go to the mirror and look at your reflection, and then move on to a second task, which will take you out of your environment. And these tasks are decided upon beforehand. But you've already projected, you're out, you've had your success, you've been to the mirror, and now you're off doing your second task. That is really how simple it can be. But there's preparation beforehand. One is to go through what Raduga in his book has already listed, a whole lot of different movement techniques that you can apply in these cycles. Some examples are moving your fingers and your hands and your arms until you can move your whole body. Another one is spinning on the axis of your body. Another is rolling from side to side or swinging. Another one is levitating. These movements can be practiced with your physical body as preparation a few days or the day before you attempt the method on your chosen night. It makes no sense for me to try and to list all these different movements or give you ideas about them in this video, because everything is already in its finest detail from the writer himself in this book. So you have to download it, you have to read that first section, and then you have all the information you'll ever need for your first out-of-body experience. It does work. It gave me my first experience, but now I want to talk more about why it isn't my favourite technique. It is very simple to follow. and understand, and if you catch it at the right moment, it's a very, very easy technique. But the problem is there are so many variables within it that it's very hard to recreate the right, in my experience then, the right state for making it a success. I've done this a few times. I've only ever experienced once that I've actually climbed out of my physical body, and that was a struggle. Most of the time I just appeared out of my body, which is fine. But I've never had much success at finding that right moment of awakening. I can remember to keep my eyes closed, I can remember to lie still, but I've never been able to utilize the cycles to actually create movement of my, or perception of my subtle body. Not on a regular basis. And I don't know why that is. I think it's because maybe with the state of my mind, the state of the level of my intention, or the level of my desire is also so variable. That I'm not trying hard enough, or I'm trying too hard, I'm expecting too much, or I'm too blasé about the whole thing, or I'm too tired, or I'm not tired enough and I wake too fully once I do wake up. There are a lot of variables that are very difficult to recreate so that this technique actually works every time you try it. Raduga would probably disagree with that and say I'm not following it to the T, but that's true. And it's very difficult to follow something to the T exactly the same every time because of these variables and because the state of your emotional state, your psychological state, is never ever the same. So there is a lot of chance element in this as well. But certainly he's had a lot of success with this for first timers, and there's a lot of practitioners that swear by this as the best and the easiest technique. And it's just that I don't agree with them because I found another technique that works much, much better for me. But that doesn't stop the fact that it gave me my first successful experience, and it is very, very valuable for that reason. So I can't do anything else than recommend that. If I was teaching out-of-body experiences to other people, I would teach this method as a first entry, a first way of experiencing out-of-body. So there's really not much more I can tell you about it. All the information is in that link below, so please do visit that site, download that book, read it, and try it. It will give you all the different applied techniques, associated techniques. It will lay out the whole structure of the method, step for step for step for step. Something I can't do as well as is already written in that book. So it makes no sense to listen to me when you can read the book. What's important to do when you do follow this method is try to follow it to the T. Practice the movements beforehand. Really take the time to digest all the information and practice the method physically before you actually apply it. That means going to bed, pretending to sleep, pretending to get up with the alarm, pretending to go back to bed, pretending to wake up spontaneously and immediately applying these different techniques. So it becomes a habit. It's got to all become a habit, so there's no time wasted thinking when you do wake up, because if you think too long, you're going to lose that connection with your sleep state, and it all depends on holding that connection, staying in that sleepy, dreamy state. And the other advice I would give is not to be impatient, not to be despondent if it doesn't work, and don't try to cut corners, because especially if you're only just starting, Raduga talks about this, that a lot of failures are because people are too eager to try this too often, cut corners, try their own techniques, and not follow it to the T. And they won't get results, so they'll lose interest, get disappointed with it, and that already changes your state of mind, which means that it's not going to work anyway. So try to stay excited, try to stay positive, try to stay enthusiastic. Really do follow his instructions as closely as possible, because he will tell you where you're going wrong as well. But if you want an OBE, a first OBE experience, this is definitely the best way to do it. The way I do it now, after a lot of trial and error and making those mistakes, which I've accepted, is a more direct method, which I'll talk about in the next video. But I've just discovered that it's not actually much different than this method, except it's got a lot less preparation. But it does take a lot longer to learn. But that's in the next video. So for this one, once again, press on that link, visit Michael Raduga's site, download his book, read the first section, the indirect method, and put it into practice, and you won't be disappointed. Okay, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.